Let's talk about Mischief, an upcoming card game about impressing or pranking royalty. Welcome to Brains on Games. I'm Dr. Brian McDonald. In this episode, we're going to be talking about a card game that's going to hit Kickstarter very soon. I will put information about the campaign in the show notes below the video. This is a game called Mischief, which is all about impressing the king and queen of the Faerie court. Mischief is a game for between 2 and 4 players. Kids age 8 and up can figure this one out, and games take only about half an hour to play. Let's take a deeper look at Mischief by Dream Cult Game Studios. So this is a prototype that was sent to me not too long ago by the folks over at Dream Cult. And one of the things that I know is going to change. So this is a prototype. Rules and the bits and pieces might change between now and the final release of the game. One of the things, though, that's definitely changing is the contrast on these cards. I don't know if you'll be able to tell. I had to turn one of the lights off here in the studio to make sure that the reflections didn't completely blow out the art on the card. So hopefully you can see what's happening here. But this is a light game, and what you're trying to do in Mischief is to earn the most victory points at the end of 8 rounds. And how do you do that? It's by playing cards to these tables that are at this party of noble fairy creatures, fantasy creatures, really. The rules talk about fairies, and I was looking for, pixies with wings. Really, it's about orcs and elves and trolls and et cetera, et cetera. It's all these fairy creatures that are, centaurs and satyrs even, that are trying to win the favor of the king and queen of the court. And if they can't win the favor, they're going to prank them. So you're trying to earn the most points by placing cards on either side of these tables. Now, the game does have a play mat, or you can play using these table cards, which is what I'm using here. And I've only set up a couple of them. There's going to be more tables as the number of players increase. I think at 4 players, there's 7 tables maybe where you're going to be playing cards. Each table has a dark side and a light side. So here you've got red caps on one side and brownies on the other. And the cards are very clearly dark or light. They have a dark or light background. As I said, though, the artwork, the color combinations here and the contrast of the cards is going to change by the time this game finally comes out. The setup here is super easy. You put your tables down, you put the tokens that go on the tables. There are going to be a couple of cards that start out at the table before the first player makes their first play. Each player is going to have 13 cards, and you're going to be playing a total of 8 of them over the course of the game. There are a couple of extra face-down cards beside each table, and up here you're going to start the game with one face-up invitation card, and I'll tell you what that's all about. So your turn really is going to consist of 2 things. You're going to play a card to the appropriate table. You're going to resolve that action, and then you're going to take this card and replace it with a different card from your hand. So you're playing a card. You're going to draw a card from up here on the invitation row of the table. The actions here are very straightforward. If I play a 1 or a 5, so in this case I've got a dark blue number 1, that's going to have to go down here. A 1 or a 5 is an invitation card. What does that mean? Well, you get to take this face down card that's beside the table and place it face up in the invitation row. Now I have 2 options to choose from when I'm discarding and taking one of those cards from the invitation row. So a 1 or a 5 is an invitation, and that's going to allow you to take this card and put it up here. Now you have more options, and there's going to be one of these cards here plus 1. So you start with 1, and then there's going to be potentially 1 from each of the table in the game that could go up to the top. Another thing that you might be able to do is protect another card. And how do you do that? Well, that's by playing a card that's either 1 higher or 1 lower than a card that's in the same side of a particular table. So here I've pulled out a blue 4. I don't have a lot of room here, but a blue 4 would go right beside that blue 5, and because they're just 1 away from each other, now that's a protection action. That means that the 5 is protected. If someone tries to play a prank at this table, the 5 can't be discarded. I'll talk about pranks in a moment. You also, when you protect a card at the table, you get to take this little token, this friendship token. It's worth 2 points. Now, someone else can steal it from me. So if someone else protects another card in the same part of the table, they can take this token from me. That means I'm not going to get those 2 points at the end of the round. However, if I've got this token and I manage to play another protected card down here to that part of the table, I get to flip it over to the locked side. I get some extra points and no one can any longer steal this token away. The other thing that could happen is a prank. So if I were to play this card, this dark blue 4 card, it's going to go down here. The 4 is not protected. It's the 5 that's protected by this 4. But if I play an equal number on the opposite side of the table, then the matching number gets discarded. In this case, I get to take the prank token. That's worth even more points actually than the friendship token. And again, though, I can lose it. If somebody else plays a prank using the same color, I can lose this token until I play my second one, and then this gets locked and I get to hang on to it. And that's worth, as I said, more points. This is 5 points if I've locked it in. Once everybody's gone around and they've played 8 cards, you're going to have 5 left in your hand. Remember, you started with 13. You'll have 5 cards left in your hand. 1 gets discarded. You have a total then of 4 cards that are going to determine some additional victory points that you might earn at the end of the game. Those points are determined by, well, you go one table at a time to see which side is in the lead, the dark or the light. So in this case with the blue table, I've got 5 at the bottom and 5 at the top. That's a tie, so there's no faction who's winning at that table. But then each player is going to take whichever blue cards, light or dark, they have in their hand. All of those cards get revealed face up in front of them, and then you add the totals up again. If there's still no leader, then it's called the dance. You get to dance with the queen of the fairy court. If there's still no leader, if nothing changes, if there was a leader on one side and it didn't change, then that's a dance. The player who laid face up the lowest card of the leading faction's color is going to be the one who gets to claim some victory points. In this case, you're going to get 6 points, and then the second lowest card is going to get 5 points. These large and small hexes are how you determine those points. Now, there is, though, another way that it could go. It is possible that once all the additional blue cards are added up, this leadership changes from a tie to one side or the other who's winning. In that case, it's not a dance. It's instead called a surprise. And when you play a surprise, well, now the points are larger. You've got a choice between a 10, you win the 10 points if you played the highest card. So in the dance, you get the most points for the lowest card, but if it's a surprise, you get the most points for the highest card, and then there's 7 points available to the second highest card that's played. There are some extra victory points if you hung on to a 3. If you get a 3, you get a toast bonus of 3 points. So you include that in your victory point total at the end. So there's a few ways that you're going to be earning victory points. But what I think is interesting here is that if nothing changes, the low card is going to win. But if the leadership at that table does change, it's the high card that wins. So you really got to be thinking about what cards you hang on to and which ones you play to the table on your turn. What skills are you practicing, though, when you play a game like Mischief? Well, this is very, very much about math reasoning. Well, quantitative reasoning is what we would call it, because psychologists never have a simple name for anything. Quantitative reasoning or math reasoning is about solving problems involving quantities, and you're looking at the numbers of the cards on the table. You've got to think that, well, there were some cards that were left over that weren't even included in the game, so you're not 100% sure which cards are out there and available to be played, but you're watching the other player's card plays. That's going to inform which card you want to exchange up here. And you're also trying to think, do I want to hang on to a high card or a low card so that I can get some extra victory points at the end of the game? So this is very much a math problem that you're solving, and the problem evolves as each player plays their card to the table. Final thoughts about Mischief. Well, this is a card game that it does go quickly, but there is some strategy here. You do really have to think about those card plays, and then you have to think about which one you're going to leave for the next player to take and exchange from their hand at the end of the turn. So there is some strategy here. Now, there's another game that came out not too long ago that does involve impressing a king and queen by playing cards to the top and bottom of a table. But there you're sort of limited in your strategic options with these other games. But with this one, you've got all the cards that you're going to have at the start, other than the ones that you might be able to grab from the invitation row. And you're really debating which card do I play, in what order, and where, so that you can get those friendship tokens and lock them in, or the prank token and lock it in for that color. That's how you're going to be earning those points. And then you're debating, do I hang on to a low card? Do I think that the leadership at that table is going to stay the same, or do I want to hang on to a high one? So very clever in terms of the way that the points are organized, and there's a strategic element there. It really is a puzzle that you're working out that's evolving every single turn. And I'm not a player, as maybe you know if you've watched a bunch of these other videos, I'm not a player who really loves Take That. But just being able to steal away a token from another player, that was fun. I didn't mind that at all. That was a good time. And so you are trying to lock in those tokens so that nobody else can take them. And then the players might have some useless cards in their hand that aren't going to be worth putting on the table because they're not going to be able to get any points for playing them. It is one where that need to keep an eye on all of the other players' cards that are played. It does, I mean, that adds that extra strategic element, and I do find that to be fun too. So we had a good time playing this game. It was a hit with our group once they all kind of figured out how those points are going to be allocated and how you hang on to the points once you've got them. The main downside, if we're going to talk about downsides to Mischief, the downside is the color palette and the artwork, which is kind of blown out. There's not very high contrast. It is hard to read the information on the cards, especially the table cards. I think the dark cards were often hard to read. It's hard sometimes to tell the difference between the colors. Is that supposed to be a dark purple or a light purple? You really have to look closely to figure that stuff out. But my understanding is that that's going to be fixed before the game finally releases. This is a prototype. So that's the final version of the game is going to have artwork that's easier to distinguish and read from a distance, hopefully. So that's already been sorted out. So thanks so much to the folks at Dream Cult for sending this game my way. We had a good time playing Mischief. And as I said, I am going to put information about the crowdfunding campaign in the show notes below the video. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them in the comments section below the video, or you can email me at brian@brainsongames.ca. Brainsongames.ca is the website. That's where future episodes will go. Previous ones are up there already. Brains on Games is the X handle and the Facebook page and the Instagram feed, so we're all over the place. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to be notified of future ones, you can head on over to YouTube and click that subscribe button. Thanks for joining me, and hopefully I'll see you next time.